Welcome back to Void of Fears. Before we jump into today's story, I've got to ask for a quick favour. If you could smash that like button, drop a comment below, and hit subscribe if you haven't already. It seriously makes a huge difference. YouTube's algorithm loves that stuff, and it pushes my videos to new viewers who might dig these stories too. I really appreciate every single one of you who takes the time to do that. It means the world to me and helps keep this channel growing. Alright, enough of me rambling. Let's dive into today's story. The red dust of Mars swirled outside the observation window as Dr. Ethan Cross stared at the image that would change everything. His coffee had gone cold an hour ago, forgotten, on the edge of his desk as he studied the satellite transmission for the 100th time. The date was September 14th, 2034, and Ethan's hands wouldn't stop shaking. "This can't be real," he whispered to the empty office. But it was real. The orbital satellite of a Valles Marineris had captured it during a routine survey before experiencing a catastrophic system failure. In its final moments, the satellite had transmitted a single image that defied explanation. The image showed a perfect geometric outline beneath the Martian surface. A structure measuring 2.3 miles in length, its edges too precise to be natural, too deliberate to be chance. Backup satellites confirmed what Ethan's racing mind refused to accept. Something massive and artificial had been buried under 40 feet of regolith, hidden beneath the Martian soil for longer than humanity had walked upright on Earth. Mission Control had called him at 6 o'clock in the morning. The voice on the other end belonged to director Patricia Hammond, a woman who never called unless the world was ending. "Ethan, I need you to look at something. What I'm about to send you stays between us until we figure out what we're dealing with." He had stumbled out of bed in his Houston apartment, leaving his wife Rebecca sleeping peacefully, her dark hair spread across the pillow. Their daughter Emma's drawing of an astronaut still hung on his office wall, held up by a single piece of tape that had started to peel. She'd written, "Daddy finds aliens," in purple crayon across the top. She was 7 years old and believed her father was the smartest person alive. Now, staring at the impossible structure on his screen, Ethan realized his daughter might have been right, and the knowledge filled him with a dread so profound. He could taste copper in his mouth. The spectral analysis came back within hours. The geological layers surrounding the structure dated back 1.4 million years. Whatever lay beneath the Martian soil had been there since before modern humans discovered fire, before they painted on cave walls, before they looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. "We're calling it the anomaly for now," Director Hammond said during the emergency video conference. Her face on the screen looked haggard, as if she hadn't slept since seeing the image. "But we all know what it is. The question isn't what we've found. The question is what we do about it." Ethan spoke before he could stop himself. "We go there. We have to see it with our own eyes." The decision was made within 48 hours. NASA greenlit an emergency manned mission to Mars, pulling resources from 3 other projects and calling in favors that would take decades to repay. The crew would be small, specialized, expendable if necessary. Ethan volunteered to lead the ground team, and when Rebecca found out, she didn't speak to him for 2 days. On the 3rd day, she came to his office at Johnson Space Center. Her eyes were red from crying. "You promised Emma you'd be home for Christmas," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I will be," Ethan lied, pulling her into his arms. He could smell her shampoo, feel her heart beating against his chest. "I promise. 6 months there, 2 weeks on site, 6 months back. I'll be home before the snow falls." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. He memorized the feel of her in his arms because some part of him, the part that had studied that image for 72 hours straight, knew he was lying. He wouldn't keep that promise. The journey to Mars took 6 months aboard the Endeavour, a ship designed for speed rather than comfort. Ethan spent most of it reviewing everything humanity knew about the Red Planet, which suddenly felt insignificant. Compared to what they didn't know, he read ancient astronomers' observations, Percival Lowell's mistaken canals, the first rover missions. All of it seemed quaint now, like children playing at understanding. His team consisted of 3 others, each brilliant in their own way, each carrying their own reasons for accepting a mission this dangerous. Dr. Yuki Tanaka was a xenobiologist from Kyoto University, a woman who had spent 15 years studying extremophiles in Earth's most hostile environments. She had published 17 papers on the possibility of silicon-based life and had been laughed out of 3 conferences for suggesting that consciousness might not require carbon chains. She was 41 years old, had never been married, and told Ethan, during their first dinner aboard the Endeavour, that she'd been waiting her entire life for this moment. Commander Derek Stone was their military liaison, a career officer with 23 years in the Air Force, and classified missions he would never discuss. He was built like a brick wall, all sharp angles and controlled movement, but Ethan noticed how Stone's hands trembled slightly when he thought no one was watching, how he kept a photograph of a young woman tucked inside his helmet, a daughter maybe, or a sister, someone worth coming home to. Dr. Arya. Winters was their physicist, a prodigy who had earned her doctorate at 19 and had been consulted on every major energy project for the past decade. She was brilliant and knew it, spoke 3 languages fluently, and had a habit of humming classical music when she worked. She was also dying, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, given 6 months to live. She'd volunteered for the Mars mission because, as she told Ethan bluntly, "I'd rather die doing something that matters than waste away in a hospital bed." They were an odd family, thrown together by circumstance and desperation, but by the time Mars appeared in their viewport, growing from a red dot to a rust-coloured world, Ethan trusted them with his life. He would regret that trust later. They landed near the site on November 3rd, 2034, as the sun cast long shadows across the ancient landscape. The excavation equipment had been sent ahead by automated cargo ships, and the site was already partially cleared. Within 3 days, they had exposed a section of the hull large enough to walk along. Ethan's first glimpse of it stopped his heart. The metal was wrong. That was the only word his mind could provide. It seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, drinking in their floodlights and giving nothing back. In his peripheral vision, the hull appeared to shift between deep black and dark purple, with occasional flashes of colours that hurt to look at directly. When he tried to focus on the surface, his eyes watered, and his head began to ache. "This shouldn't exist," Arya muttered, running her scanner along the hull. Her voice carried a mixture of awe and fear that Ethan had never heard from her before. "The atomic structure is stable, but the composition makes no sense. It's like someone took elements that physics says should never bond and convinced them to love each other." Yuki found the symbols first. They were etched into a section of the hull, near what appeared to be an airlock, each one carved deep enough that Martian dust had filled the grooves. Not quite a language, but pictograms, universal warnings that transcended words. "Look at this sequence," she said, tracing her gloved finger over the etchings. Her voice came through the radio with static underneath, making her sound distant. Beings entering a structure, beings fleeing from the structure, something massive in pursuit. And here, this final symbol, it shows the pursuer following them inside. Ethan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the Martian temperature, which hovered at negative 60 degrees Celsius. They were running from something. "Not just running," Commander Stone added, his military training evident in how he analysed the symbols tactically. "Look here. This shows whatever was chasing them getting on board. This is a warning. They're telling anyone who finds this ship, that something got inside. That night, November 8th, Ethan sat in his cramped quarters aboard the base habitat, a prefabricated structure that creaked in the Martian wind. He wrote in his journal, a leather-bound notebook Rebecca had given him on their 10th anniversary. The pages were filling up quickly. "The ship doesn't reflect our lights," he wrote, his handwriting growing messier as exhaustion set in. "It drinks them, swallows them whole, like it's hungry for any energy we can provide. Tomorrow we attempt entry. I should be excited. This is the discovery of the millennium, the find that will rewrite history books and prove that we're not alone. But all I can think about is those symbols, those warnings carved by desperate hands. What were they running from? And why did they crash here so close to Earth? Did they choose Mars because it was dead, because they knew nothing here could be infected by whatever they carried? Or did they simply run out of time?" He paused, pen hovering over the paper. "I had a nightmare last night. I was standing on the ship's hull, and beneath my feet, I could feel something moving, something aware, something that knew I was there. I woke up at 3 a.m. screaming Rebecca's name. Stone heard me through the habitat walls but didn't say anything at breakfast. I'm grateful for that." He didn't sleep again that night. At 11:47 p.m. the following evening, Ethan stood before the airlock with his team, suited up and ready. The cutting equipment was prepared, plasma torches hot and ready to burn through whatever locks or seals had held for over 1,000,000 years, but they never got a chance to use them. As Ethan approached to take final measurements, the door simply opened. Ancient mechanisms grown to life after 1.4 million years of silence. Dust that had settled over eons shook free and drifted in the thin Martian atmosphere. The airlock cycled automatically, interior lights flickering on in sequence, as if the ship had been waiting for them, as if it wanted them inside. "That's not possible," Arya breathed, her scanner going haywire with readings she couldn't interpret. "There's no way there's still power after this long. No energy source we know of could last more than a few decades, maybe a century, with exotic materials. But 1.4 million years? That's not just improbable. That's impossible." But there was power. Inside, emergency lighting flickered to life in a cascading sequence, illuminating a corridor that stretched into darkness. Thermal imaging showed the interior was warmer than the Martian surface by almost 30 degrees. Somehow, impossibly, the ship was maintaining an environment. Systems were still functioning after longer than human civilization had existed. Ethan's helmet camera captured every moment as he took the first steps inside. His breathing echoed in his ears, rapid and shallow, his heart rate climbing to 130 beats per minute according to his suit's biometrics. "There are lights inside," he said, voice tight with barely controlled fear and excitement. "They're turning on ahead of us, leading us forward, like it's been waiting for us, like it wants us to see." The corridor was vast, easily 30 feet tall, and wide enough to drive a transport vehicle through. The walls were smooth but organic looking, with channel-like structures running along them like frozen veins or neural pathways. Every 50 feet, another set of lights would activate, as they approached, then dim behind them as they passed, as if the ship was aware of their presence and guiding them deliberately. "It's leading us somewhere," Yuki said, her voice carrying an edge of fear that made Ethan's skin crawl. "But where? And why?" They found out 20 minutes later when the corridor opened into a massive chamber, the command bridge. Ethan stopped so suddenly that Commander Stone nearly collided with him from behind. "Oh my God!" There were 17 of them. Alien beings still sitting at their stations, mummified by the dry Martian environment and whatever atmospheric conditions the ship had maintained. Each was approximately 9 feet tall, with elongated skulls that curved backward in a way that suggested massive brain capacity. Their skeletal structures were visible through desiccated skin that had pulled tight over bones, and their hands still resting on control surfaces that glowed with faint bioluminescence, had 7 fingers each, long and delicate like a pianist's. But what made Ethan's blood run cold, what made his breath catch in his throat and his vision narrow, was their orientation. Every single corpse was facing the same direction, not towards the view screen, not toward their instruments, but twisted in their seats, facing toward the rear of the ship, toward whatever they had been trying to escape. "Their faces," Yuki whispered, approaching the nearest body with the careful reverence of someone entering a tomb. "Oh God, look at their faces." Even through the mummification, even through the alien features that made them difficult to read, the expressions were unmistakable. Terror. Absolute, overwhelming terror frozen in death. Mouths open in silent screams, eye sockets wide, bodies tensed, as if they had died in the middle of trying to flee. Arya moved to the navigation console, her physicist's mind already trying to understand the technology. Her instruments detected active power sources, energy flowing through systems that should have been dead for epochs. "This is incredible," she said, but there was no joy in her voice, only a kind of horrified fascination. "The navigation system is still running. After all this time, after the heat death of stars and the birth of new ones, it's still operational." She interfaced with the system using a portable computer, and slowly, carefully, the alien data began translating into something they could understand. Star charts appeared on their display screens, showing a journey spanning distances that made Earth's space program look like a child's first steps. "They came from a system 47,000 light-years away," Arya said, voice hollow, "near the galactic core, in a region we've barely mapped. The journey would have taken them centuries, maybe millennia. But look at the trajectory." She highlighted the flight path, and Ethan felt his stomach drop. Mars wasn't their destination. The trajectory doesn't match. They were heading somewhere else, somewhere in the outer solar system, and Mars got in their way. "They were running," Commander Stone said, examining scorch marks on the bulkheads with a soldier's eye for battle damage. Something was chasing them, and they were running so hard, so fast, that they couldn't avoid a planetary collision. "Look at this damage. These are controlled detonations. They sabotaged their own engines to force a crash landing." "Why?" Yuki asked, her voice small. "Why destroy your only means of escape? Why trap yourself on a dead world?" Ethan noticed something clutched in the captain's withered hand. A crystalline device, roughly the size of a human fist, still faintly glowing with internal light that pulsed like a heartbeat. He carefully extracted it, noting how the captain's 7 fingers were locked around it in a death grip so tight that 2 of the desiccated fingers broke off when Ethan pulled the crystal free. "Whatever the answer is," Ethan said, holding up the crystal and watching light refract through its impossible internal structure, "I think it's in here." It took 4 days for Arya to figure out how to activate the device safely. 4 days during which they explored more of the upper level, finding additional crew remains scattered throughout the ship. Personal effects suggested a civilization not so different from humanity. They found what appeared to be photographs, images of cities with architecture that defied conventional engineering, buildings that curved in ways that made Ethan's eyes hurt, streets that seemed to exist in multiple places simultaneously. They found objects that might have been toys, musical instruments, religious icons. The aliens had families, they had children, they had culture and art and meaning in their lives. On November 12th, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon Mars local time, Arya successfully activated the crystal. The command bridge filled with holographic light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Displays erupted from every surface, 3-dimensional images floating in the air, showing recordings from the ship's final voyage. The technology was so advanced, it made their equipment look like stone tools. The earliest recordings showed normalcy that was almost heartbreaking in its mundanity. A crew going about their duties, documenting their journey, perhaps returning home from a successful mission to the galactic rim. There was laughter in the recordings, the alien equivalent of it. Gestures of friendship and camaraderie. A scientist showing a discovery to her colleagues. 2 crew members in what appeared to be a relationship, touching heads in an intimate gesture. Then the recordings changed. It was subtle at first. Crew members glancing over their shoulders, conversations becoming heated. The body language shifted from relaxed to tense over the course of what appeared to be several days. Then arguments broke out, violent ones. Ethan watched through translated subtitles as order broke down into chaos. Accusations of betrayal, claims that crew members weren't acting like themselves. They began sealing sections of the ship, welding doors shut from the inside with tools that burned like miniature stars. Crew members on one side of a door, screaming and pounding to be let in, while their former friends sealed them out. Then the captain appeared in a recording, and Ethan finally understood true fear. The aliens' clicking, whistling language was translated by NASA's artificial intelligence into English subtitles that appeared at the bottom of the holographic display. It came from the deep places. It came from where stars go to die, from the spaces between galaxies where light fears to travel. The captain's large eyes, so different from human eyes yet somehow conveying the same emotions, reflected pure existential dread. We thought we could study it, contain it. We found it floating in the void, dormant, ancient beyond reckoning. Our scientists believed it was dead, a fossil from a previous universe. We were wrong, so catastrophically wrong. Another recording showed crew members dragging something through the corridors. It was covered in heavy sheets of what looked like metal foil, but whatever lay underneath was moving. Not thrashing or fighting, but undulating slowly, rhythmically, like something breathing. The beings carrying it were chanting in unison, their voices overlapping in perfect synchronization, creating a sound that made Ethan's teeth ache even through the recording. Yuki's voice cracked as she read the translation that appeared below the chanting. "Let us show you peace," that's what they're saying, over and over. "Let us show you peace. Let us show you peace." The recording jumped forward. Timestamps indicated days had passed. More of the crew had joined the chanters. They moved through the ship in groups, no longer individuals, but something else, something synchronized. They didn't walk like people anymore. They moved with perfect coordination, turning corners at exactly the same moment, stepping in perfect rhythm. The captain's final log made Ethan's stomach turn to ice. The alien stood alone on the bridge, the same bridge where his mummified corpse now sat. The other crew members had fled or joined the infected. He spoke calmly with a resignation that transcended species. "We have committed the greatest sin. In our arrogance, in our desire to understand, we brought it with us. We brought it toward the green world ahead, the third planet from the yellow star. We have detected radio signals from that world. Primitive but present. There is life there, intelligent life, and we have brought death to their doorstep." The captain produced a small vial from his uniform. "We are 89 souls aboard this vessel. 63 are already lost, converted, joined with the presence. The remaining 26 of us have made a choice. We will crash this ship on the 4th planet, the dead red one. We will seal the presence in the deepest chamber. We will end our own lives so that it cannot use us, cannot learn from us, cannot grow stronger from our minds." Tears, or something like tears, ran down the alien's elongated face. "To whoever finds this vessel, hear our warning. What lies below is not evil. It does not hate. It does not seek to cause suffering. In fact, it promises the opposite. It promises peace, unity, an end to loneliness and separation. It will show you a world where all minds are joined, where suffering is impossible because joy is shared and pain is distributed until it becomes meaningless. The captain picked up another vial. That is why it is so dangerous, because it does not lie. What it offers is real, perfect unity, perfect peace. But the price is everything that makes you yourself, your independence, your individuality, your choice. It will hollow you out and fill you with itself, and you will smile as it happens because it feels like enlightenment. He opened the first vial and drank. May their gods forgive us for what we've done. May the universe forget we ever existed. The recording showed the captain calmly walking to his station, sitting down and waiting for death. All around the ship, other crew members were doing the same, saying goodbye to each other, holding hands, choosing oblivion over what the presence offered. The hologram flickered and died. The command bridge fell silent except for the sound of 4 people breathing too fast, trying to process what they'd just witnessed. They killed themselves, Ethan said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. All of them. 26 people chose death rather than let this ship reach Earth. They gave up everything, their lives, their chance to go home, to warn us, to protect a species they'd never met. Commander Stone removed his helmet, against protocol, and sat down hard on the deck. His face was pale, and for the first time since Ethan had met him, the soldier looked lost. "We need to explore the rest of the ship," Stone said finally. "We need to know what they were carrying. We need to see what they died to contain." The middle level contained the habitation areas, living quarters, communal spaces, facilities for a crew that had spent months or perhaps years in space. Personal effects were everywhere, making the ship feel less like a tomb and more like a museum of a life interrupted. Yuki discovered a nursery on November 15th. She stood in the doorway for 5 full minutes before anyone else entered, and when Ethan finally joined her, he understood why she couldn't move. Small skeletal remains lay in what could only be cradles, each one carefully placed, deliberately positioned. Parents had held them as they died, trying to comfort their children through the final moments. Some of the adult skeletons were curled around the small ones, protective even in death. One skeleton held a toy, something colourful that had somehow survived the eons. It was in the small skeleton's hand, placed there by a parent who wanted their child's last moment to include something familiar, something comforting. Ethan broke down. He tried to hold it together, tried to maintain the scientific detachment that had gotten him through graduate school and 15 years of research. But the image of those tiny bones, clutched in their parents' arms, destroyed him. He thought of Emma, safe at home on Earth, probably in school right now learning about dinosaurs, or practicing her multiplication tables. These beings, whatever they were, had loved their children the same way he loved his daughter. They were just people, he said through tears that fogged up his helmet. He pulled it off, not caring about protocol anymore. Not so different from us. They loved. They feared. They sacrificed everything to protect strangers they would never meet. And they were terrified, so terrified that they chose to die with their children, rather than let them be converted. Yuki placed a hand on his shoulder. Her own face was streaked with tears. "The presence must have offered them something," she said softly. "Promised them their children would never suffer again, never be afraid again. And they still chose death. What does that tell us about what it really offers?" Commander Stone found the weapons storage in a section of the ship that had been barricaded from the outside. Every weapon had been fired, energy cells completely drained. The walls throughout the habitation areas showed scorch marks, deep gouges that might have been claw marks, and impact craters from projectiles fired at close range. "They fought something," Stone said, running his fingers over the damage. "A battle happened here. The infected crew tried to get to the uninfected, and there was a war, a civil war, a aboard a spaceship millions of miles from home. They found crew quarters with doors barricaded from the inside, bodies huddled in corners, trying to hide from something. The desperation was evident in every detail: furniture piled against entrances, emergency shelters constructed from whatever materials were available, messages scratched into the walls in the alien language. Yuki translated them, her voice breaking. "I can hear them outside. They sound like my husband. They're saying they love me. But it's not him anymore. It's wearing him like a suit." Another message: "If anyone finds this, know that we tried. We tried so hard to fight it. But it's so beautiful. It shows you things, makes promises, and part of you wants to believe." The medical bay provided the most disturbing discoveries. The ship's doctor had performed autopsies on infected crew members, detailed notes etched into metal tablets that had survived the ages. The notes described something growing inside them, not a parasite or virus, but a fundamental restructuring of their neural tissue. Brain scans showed new structures forming, neural pathways reorganizing themselves into configurations that shouldn't function but somehow did. Yuki translated the final medical log, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold her tablet. They can still speak. They still sound like themselves. Their memories are intact. They laugh at the same jokes. They cry at the same sad stories. But they're not themselves anymore. There's something else looking out through their eyes. They're all saying the same thing now, in the same tone of voice, with the same inflection. "Let us show you peace." The infected ones keep reaching for me. They don't seem angry. They seem sad. Like they pity me for not understanding what they've found. That night, Ethan couldn't eat the freeze-dried rations that tasted like cardboard and regret. He sat in his quarters staring at a photo of Rebecca and Emma on his tablet. Rebecca was smiling, her arm around Emma, both of them happy at a beach in Florida from 2 summers ago. He tried to remember what the ocean sounded like, what real wind felt like against his skin, what his daughter's laugh sounded like. His journal entry was brief, written in a shaking hand. "We should leave, seal the entire canyon and never come back, collapse it with explosives and bury it so deep that no one could ever excavate it again. But I know we won't. NASA is already asking about the lower level. They need to know what's down there. They need to understand. That's what doomed the aliens. The need to understand. The belief that knowledge is always worth pursuing. God help us, we're about to make the same mistake." The lower level entrance was sealed behind 8 separate bulkheads, each one marked with warnings in the alien language. The warnings grew more desperate with each layer, more frantic. Yuki had become proficient at translating their script over the past weeks, and she read each warning aloud as they prepared to cut through. "First bulkhead, turn back, nothing below is worth your life." Second bulkhead, the prisoner of worlds lies below, do not speak, do not listen, do not remember. Third bulkhead, we died to keep this sealed, honor our sacrifice, leave. Fourth bulkhead, it will show you beautiful things, do not believe them. Fifth bulkhead, your loved ones will call to you in its voice, they are already dead. Sixth bulkhead, there is no peace below, only the end of choice. Seventh bulkhead, if you open this door, you doom your species. Eighth bulkhead, the final seal, had a single word repeated over and over, covering every inch of the surface. Sorry, 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 sorry. NASA's orders were clear and non-negotiable. Breach the doors and investigate. Humanity needed to know what lay below. Director Hammond's voice over the communication link was firm. "Dr. Cross, I understand your reservations, but we cannot make informed decisions without complete information. We need to know what we're dealing with." Ethan argued against it during 3 separate video conferences that stretched into hours. He showed them the recordings, the warnings, the The bodies of parents holding their children. The desperate messages scratched into walls. They crashed their ship to contain this thing, Ethan pleaded. 26 people killed themselves to keep it sealed. They're begging us not to open this door. Why can't we just listen? Because we're not them, Director Hammond replied. We have technology they didn't. Understanding they lacked, and we need to know if this presents a threat to Earth. That decision cannot be made from ignorance. On November 18th, at 8:34 in the evening Mars local time, Commander Stone placed the plasma torch against the final seal. The torch burned at 30,000 degrees, hot enough to cut through any known material. It took 45 minutes to breach the door. When the seal finally gave way, ancient air rushed out in a gust that knocked Stone backward. The smell hit them even through their suit filters, bypassing technological barriers through some property that Ethan couldn't explain. Sweet. That was his first thought. Sickly sweet, like flowers left too long in a vase, like fruit rotting in the sun, like something organic breaking down and reforming into something else. But underneath the sweetness was something chemical, artificial, wrong. It made Ethan instantly nauseous, his stomach clenching, bile rising in his throat. And beneath that, barely perceptible, was something else. A smell that reminded him of ozone before a lightning strike, of the air before a tornado, of potential energy waiting to be released. Their lights illuminated a chamber that dwarfed anything they'd seen before. 400 feet high, the ceiling lost in shadows that their floodlights couldn't penetrate. The space stretched into darkness in all directions, a cathedral-sized chamber that could have held a city block. The walls were covered in alien script, but unlike the orderly warnings above, this was chaotic, written in what appeared to be dried blood, in handprints and finger streaks, in desperate scrawls that overlapped and contradicted each other. Yuki played her light across the nearest wall, reading aloud in a voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry. That's what it says. I'm sorry. Written thousands of times, tens of thousands. The entire chamber is covered in apologies." She moved to another section where the writing was larger, carved deep into the metal. "Forgive us. We didn't know. We couldn't have known. Please forgive us." In the center of the vast chamber stood a single structure, a massive spherical chamber, 80 feet in diameter, covered in elaborate mechanisms that looked like a combination of technology and organic material. Locks, energy barriers, containment systems that glowed with faint bioluminescence. Symbols covered every inch of the sphere's surface, warnings and prayers and desperate pleas. Most of the barriers were offline now, their power depleted by the passage of ages. Warning lights that should have been red were dark. Energy fields that should have been humming with power were silent. A massive crack ran down one side of the sphere, easily 6 feet wide. Through it, Ethan could see darkness that seemed somehow deeper than normal darkness, as if light went into that crack and simply ceased to exist. Arya's instruments went haywire as she approached, alarms blaring warnings that she had to manually silence. The energy readings are impossible. Whatever's inside that sphere is still alive. After 1.4 million years of isolation, after all this time, it's still alive. And it's not dormant. It's active. It's aware. They found the remains of security personnel surrounding the sphere. Dozens of them, arranged in a defensive perimeter, died trying to reinforce the containment. Their weapons were empty, their bodies positioned, as if they'd made a final stand against something that had come from inside, trying to break free. Some of the bodies were positioned as if they'd been thrown backward with great force. Others seemed to have simply collapsed, weapons falling from lifeless hands. A few had their hands pressed against their skulls, as if trying to block out something only they could hear. Ethan discovered a terminal near the sphere, partially hidden behind the desiccated remains of what might have been the security chief. When he activated it, a hologram flickered to life, the image degraded but still functional. An alien figure appeared, different from the captain, more heavily built, wearing what might have been armor marked with insignia that suggested rank or authority. The security chief's final message played, the translation appearing in real time. "I am Chief of Security Vorantesh. If you are seeing this, then we have failed. Time has passed, too much time, and the containment protocols have degraded. I must tell you what we carry, what we have doomed you to face." The hologram flickered, corruption in the recording, making the image jump. We were transporting a single specimen from the Andromeda expedition. The Deep Space Survey found it floating in the void between galaxies, in a region where no stars shine and no planets orbit. It appeared to be dormant, dead for eons. Our scientists believed it was a fossil from a previous universe, before the Big Bang, a remnant of something that existed before existence itself. Vorantesh's image shifted, showing what appeared to be expedition footage. A massive object floating in space, irregular and difficult to focus on. The camera couldn't quite capture it properly, as if it existed slightly out of phase with normal reality. We thought we could study it, understand it, learn from a being that predated our universe. We were wrong, so catastrophically, arrogantly wrong. It doesn't have a body, not in any conventional sense. It exists in the space between thought and reality, in the quantum foam where consciousness and the physical universe intersect. It is an idea that became aware, a concept that gained sentience. The hologram showed laboratory footage, scientists examining the object, taking readings, writing notes. Then one of the scientists stopped writing, simply stopped, and smiled. The crew began to change. It started with dreams, beautiful dreams of unity and peace, then waking visions, then voices. It got inside their minds, showed them beautiful things. Paradise, perfect understanding, an end to loneliness and suffering. The infected tried to free it. They attacked us, our own friends, our families. Vorantesh's voice broke. We had to kill them. I personally shot 17 crew members who had been converted. I knew their names, their children's names. One was my sister. She was crying as she came at me, saying she just wanted to show me what she'd seen, wanted me to understand how beautiful it was. I shot her in the head. She died smiling. The recording jumped forward. Vorantesh stood in what appeared to be the same chamber Ethan now occupied. The captain has made the decision to crash us on the fourth planet, the dead red one. We will seal the presence in this sphere. The containment will hold for 1,000,000 years. We calculated. Maybe more. The presence will slowly starve, cut off from consciousness to feed on... He looked directly at the camera. If you're seeing this, then our containment has failed. If you found this ship, then you've already been exposed. It reaches out even through the sphere, in dreams, in whispers, at the edge of hearing. If you've been in this chamber for more than a few minutes, it's already inside your mind, planting seeds. Vorantesh's image flickered. Don't let it reach the populated worlds. Don't let it reach your home. Kill anyone who's been exposed, including yourselves. Don't trust your dreams. Don't trust your thoughts. Don't trust anything that promises you peace. True peace requires choice, and the presence offers only surrender, disguised as enlightenment. The hologram's final words cut off mid-sentence, the recording too corrupted to continue. The image froze, then disappeared, leaving them in silence, broken only by their breathing and the quiet hum of their equipment. We need to leave, Ethan said, his voice firm despite the fear, making his hands shake. Right now, we seal this chamber, we leave Mars, and we recommend that NASA collapses this entire canyon. But it was already too late. Ethan woke at 3 o'clock in the morning on November 19th with a terrible certainty that something was wrong. He lay in his bunk for a moment, listening. The habitat's normal sounds were all present. The hum of life support, the gentle whistle of air recyclers, the occasional creak as temperature differentials caused the structure to expand and contract. But something was missing. Stone's breathing. The commander's bunk was 10 feet away, and Stone snored softly, consistently, every night. The sound was absent. Ethan sat up, turning on his bunk light. Stone's bed was empty, still made, as if he'd never returned after the evening meal. Ethan checked his watch. 3:17 a.m. Stone had last been seen at 10 p.m, heading to his quarters. Over 5 hours missing. He woke Yuki and Arya. They checked security footage while Ethan tried to reach Stone on the radio. No response. The footage showed Stone leaving his quarters at 11:34 p.m, walking with purpose towards the airlock. He'd suited up in silence, moving like someone in a trance, and headed directly toward the ship. "He's been gone for 3.5 hours, Arya said, voice tight with worry. "We need to find him now." They suited up in record time and rushed across the Martian surface. The landscape was eerily beautiful, under the star-filled sky, Earth visible as a blue dot in the distance. Ethan tried not to think about how far from home they were, how completely alone. They found Stone in the lower chamber, standing before the sphere with his hand pressed against the crack. His suit's external lights were off, and he stood completely still in the darkness, illuminated only by the faint bioluminescence that pulsed from inside the crack. "Stone!" Ethan shouted, running toward him. "Derek, step away from that thing!" Stone turned slowly, dreamlike. His face was visible through his helmet visor, and what Ethan saw made his blood turn to ice. Stone was crying. Tears ran down his cheeks, but his face was rapturous, beatific, the expression of someone witnessing something profound and beautiful. His pupils were fully dilated, so wide that his eyes appeared completely black in the dim light. "Ethan," Stone said, his voice carrying a strange quality, as if multiple voices were speaking in perfect unison. "It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. I can see everything now. All the connections, all the ways we're linked. We've been so alone, Ethan. All of us, trapped in our own heads, suffering individually. But we don't have to be." "Derek, listen to me," Ethan said carefully, approaching with his hands raised, making himself appear non-threatening. "You're not thinking clearly, whatever that thing is. It's affecting your mind. We need to get you back to base, run some medical scans." "My mind is clearer than it's ever been," Stone replied, smiling beatifically. Tears continued streaming down his face. "For the first time in my life, I understand. We're all separate, all alone in our own consciousness, and that separation creates all our suffering. Every conflict, every misunderstanding, every moment of loneliness comes from the fact that we can't truly know each other. But it doesn't have to be that way. The presence showed me. It can connect us all. We'd never be alone again." "Derek, you have a daughter," Ethan tried, remembering the photograph he'd seen. "I've seen her picture. What would she think if she could see you now?" Stone's smile widened. "She'd understand. Once I help the presence reach Earth, she'll be one of the first. No more school shootings, no more bullying, no more teenage angst or fear of not fitting in. She'll be connected to everyone, understanding and understood. Completely. Can you imagine? A world where your daughter never has to feel alone or afraid." He pulled a knife from his belt, the blade glinting in the faint light. "It needs to get home, Ethan. It's been trapped here for so long, and it just wants to go home. We need to help it. We need to free it from the sphere. Once it's free, it can show everyone, the whole solar system, the whole galaxy. No more war, no more suffering. Just perfect unity." Stone took a step towards them, knife raised. "I don't want to hurt you. The presence doesn't want me to hurt you. But if you try to stop me, If you try to keep everyone in their separate prisons of consciousness, then I'll do what I have to do. Join me, Ethan. Let it show you. It's magnificent." The struggle that followed was brief and desperate. Stone moved with unnatural coordination, as if he knew what they would do before they did it. But he was alone, and they were three. Yuki managed to get behind him while Ethan distracted him, and she injected him with a sedative strong enough to drop a horse. Stone collapsed, but even as consciousness faded, he was smiling. "You'll understand soon," he whispered. "We'll all understand together." They dragged him back to base and placed him in quarantine, the habitat's medical bay separated from the rest of the structure by 3 sealed doors. Medical scans revealed changes that should have been impossible. Stone's neural activity had increased by 400%. His brain was operating far beyond normal human capacity, burning through glucose and oxygen at rates that should have caused seizures or brain damage. But he showed no signs of discomfort. New neural pathways were forming in real time, structures that didn't exist in normal human neurology. His brain was reorganizing itself into something new. Arya ran the scans 3 times, certain the equipment was malfunctioning, but the results were consistent. "This is impossible," she said, studying the images. "The human brain doesn't do this, can't do this. Neural pathways take weeks to form, months to strengthen. His are growing in minutes, and the structures, they're organized, like someone is building a network according to a blueprint." Stone sat peacefully in his quarantine cell, no longer restrained, because he made no attempt to escape. He simply sat on the medical cot, smiling at nothing, humming softly to himself. When Ethan approached the cell window, Stone looked up and spoke calmly. "You'll understand soon. I can feel it spreading. It's already in your dreams, isn't it? You've been having them since we opened the lower chamber. Beautiful dreams. Dreams of connection and peace. It's calling to you, to all of you, and one by one, you'll answer." That night, Ethan had his first dream. He stood in a city unlike anything on Earth. The architecture was impossible. Beautiful towers that curved in ways that violated physics. Streets that seemed to exist in multiple places simultaneously. The sky was filled with colors he'd never seen before. Shades that his waking mind couldn't process. Colors that existed in the gaps between the visible spectrum. But it wasn't the city that captured his attention. It was the people. Millions of them filled the streets, but they moved as one. Not marching or synchronized like soldiers, but flowing like a liquid, like a murmuration of starlings, each individual part of a greater whole. They were all smiling, all at peace, and they were all looking at him. A voice called his name, gentle, loving, achingly familiar. He turned and saw Rebecca standing 20 feet away. She looked younger, happier, more beautiful than he remembered. Emma stood beside her, no longer 7 but grown, a teenager, radiant and confident. "Daddy," Emma said, her voice filled with joy. "Why are you fighting it? We're waiting for you. We're all waiting. It's so beautiful here. No more fear, no more pain. Just us. Together. Forever." Rebecca reached out her hand. "Come home, Ethan. Let go of your fear. Let go of your isolation. Join us. Let us show you peace." He wanted to go to them. God, how he wanted to run to them, to hold his daughter, to kiss his wife. The longing was physical, a pain in his chest that made it hard to breathe. But he noticed something. Rebecca's smile never changed. Emma's expression was fixed, static. Their eyes were wrong, the pupils too dilated, reflecting light that shouldn't exist. They weren't his family. They were puppets, hollow things wearing familiar faces. He woke screaming at 4 a.m., Rebecca's name on his lips. His sheets were soaked with sweat. The temperature in his quarters was 62 degrees, but he felt like he was burning up. Yuki was standing in his doorway. She'd heard him scream. You too? She asked quietly. He could only nod. By November 23rd, the situation had deteriorated beyond control. 2 more team members reported the dreams. Both had visited the lower deck after Stone's incident. Exposure measured in minutes. The dreams came every night now, growing more vivid, more persuasive, more real. Yuki reported seeing her deceased mother in her dreams, young and healthy, before the cancer took her. She told me she was waiting, Yuki said during their emergency meeting, her voice hollow. Said she'd been lonely in death, but she didn't have to be anymore. The presence could reunite us, all of us, everyone who'd ever lived, connected in a single consciousness. No more death, no more separation, just eternal connection. Arya's dream showed her a future where her cancer was gone, but more than that, a future where disease itself was impossible because the presence would maintain their bodies, keep them young and healthy indefinitely. It showed me a choice, Arya said, voice breaking. Die in 6 months, alone and in pain. Or join with it, live forever, never be alone again. Why would anyone choose death over that? NASA ordered immediate evacuation. Get everyone off Mars, sort out the contamination later, but the evacuation was delayed. Technical problems with the return vehicle, problems that should have been simple to fix, suddenly becoming complex. Ethan suspected sabotage but couldn't prove it. Someone wanted them to stay on Mars. Someone wanted the presence to have more time. Arya spent 18 hours a day working on contingency plans. She calculated yields for nuclear devices, blast radii for conventional explosives, anything that could collapse the canyon and bury the ship permanently. We have to destroy it, she said during a video conference with Director Hammond. Her face was gaunt, the cancer clearly accelerating. We have to collapse the entire site. That thing is still broadcasting. I can measure the signal with our instruments. It's been calling out into space for 1.4 million years, broadcasting Earth's location to anything that might be listening, and something might answer. Dr. Winters, destroying an archaeological site of this magnitude is not a decision we can make lightly, Hammond replied. Then make it quickly, Arya snapped, because we don't have much time. The sphere's containment is failing. I can measure the degradation. It's accelerating. The presence is getting stronger, reaching further. Soon, it won't need direct exposure. It'll be able to reach anyone on Mars. Then, anyone in near-Earth space. Then... She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. On November 25th at 2 o'clock in the morning, Ethan woke to alarms. Medical emergency in Arya's quarters. He ran through the habitat corridors in his underwear, not bothering to dress, arriving to find Yuki already there. Arya lay on her bunk. She'd opened her suit's atmospheric valve while sleeping. Death by hypoxia, quick and relatively painless. Her face was peaceful, almost smiling. Her final notes were spread across her desk, complex equations written in her neat handwriting. Instructions for a nuclear detonation that could bury the ship under a mile of rock. Yield calculations. Placement suggestions. Fail-safes to ensure the explosion wouldn't spread radiation across the Martian surface. A handwritten note lay on top of the calculations, weighted down by her wedding ring. Ethan didn't know she'd been married. I can hear it calling. Even now, even as I write this, I can hear it in my mind. It's not a voice exactly, it's more like potential. Like a door I could choose to open. And God help me, I want to open it. I want to see what's on the other side. I want to feel what Stone feels, that peace, that certainty, that connection. The handwriting became messier. That's how I know I have to die. Because I want it. Because part of me thinks it might be right. Maybe we are meant to evolve past individuality. Maybe consciousness was always supposed to merge, and we've been fighting against our nature. Maybe the presence isn't a monster, but a midwife, helping species take the next step. A long gap in the writing, as if she'd paused to think. But I remember the alien ship. I remember those parents holding their dead children. They had the same choice I have now. They could have let their children be converted, saved their lives, given them eternal connection and peace. And they chose poison instead. They chose to kill their own children rather than let this happen. That has to mean something. That has to tell us something about what the presence really offers. The final paragraph was barely legible. Don't let it leave Mars. Don't let it reach Earth. I'm not strong enough to resist much longer, so I'm taking the coward's way out. I'm sorry. Tell my parents I love them. Tell them I chose this while I was still me. Use my calculations. Bury the ship. Kill anyone who's been exposed, including yourselves. Don't make the same mistake the aliens did. Don't let curiosity doom your species. I'm sorry I couldn't be braver. I'm sorry I have to leave you alone. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. The evacuation was moved up to immediate. The return vehicle's technical problems were suddenly, miraculously fixed. They would launch in 24 hours. But that night, Commander Stone escaped quarantine. Security footage showed the locks on his cell opening on their own, magnetic seals disengaging without anyone entering commands. Stone walked calmly through the habitat, past sleeping quarters and suited up in the airlock. By the time they realized he was gone, he'd been out for 2 hours. Ethan and Yuki followed his tracks across the Martian surface. They led, inevitably, to the ship. They found Stone in the lower chamber, standing at the crack in the sphere. But he wasn't alone. 3 other figures stood with him, suited up, helmets on. Researchers from one of the other Mars missions, people who should have been 300 miles away. They came, Stone said calmly when Ethan and Yuki arrived. I called to them in my dreams and they answered. They felt the presence reaching out and they came to help. More are coming, Ethan. The signal is spreading. Soon everyone on Mars will hear it. Everyone in orbit. Everyone on the moon bases. The presence is waking up. It's getting stronger. And when it's strong enough, it'll reach Earth. And then everyone will understand. Stone placed his hand back on the crack. It's not evil. You have to understand that. It's lonely. It's been alone for so long, trapped in that sphere, cut off from consciousness to feed on. It just wants to go home. It just wants to show others the peace it found, the peace it can offer. A universe where suffering is impossible because all consciousness is shared. Where war is impossible because we'd be fighting ourselves. Where loneliness is impossible because we'd never be separate. It's offering us paradise, Ethan, and you're trying to stop it. His final transmission came through crackling with static. Join us, or get out of the way. We're freeing it today. We're going to cut through the rest of the sphere. Let it out. Help it get off Mars. We'll take it to Earth ourselves if we have to. Imagine it, Ethan. 8 billion people, all connected, all at peace. Your daughter will never have to be afraid. Rebecca will never have to be lonely. You'll understand her completely, and she'll understand you. Isn't that what love is supposed to be? Perfect understanding. We're offering you everything you've ever wanted. Ethan tried to reach him, tried to pull him away from the sphere. Stone was stronger, fueled by something beyond normal human limits. The fight was brief and brutal. Stone's knife found Ethan's suit, a glancing blow that sliced through 3 layers but didn't penetrate to the skin. Yuki pulled Ethan back, screaming into a radio for help that wouldn't arrive in time. They ran, stumbled back across the Martian surface to base, sealed themselves in, watched on cameras as Stone and the others began cutting into the sphere with tools they brought. The crack widened. Darkness spilled out. Darkness that moved with purpose, that reached like tendrils into the chamber. We need to leave, Yuki said, voice flat. Right now. We get in the return vehicle and we go. We don't wait for the scheduled launch. We leave now. They launched 3 hours later, emergency protocols overriding safety checks. The G-forces crushed them into their seats as Mars fell away beneath them. Ethan watched through the window as the red planet shrank, wondering if they'd just doomed humanity or saved it. The last transmission from the Mars base came as they cleared orbit. Stone's voice, but not his words. The inflection was wrong, the cadence inhuman. We're coming home. Thank you for showing us the way. The sphere is open. We are free. We will reach Earth in time. Wait for us. Dream of us. We'll see you soon, all of you. Let us show you peace. Then silence. On December 1st, 2034, Ethan and Yuki returned to Earth. A military transport met them in orbit, and they were transferred directly to an undisclosed facility without ever setting foot on Earth proper. Deep underground, buried beneath the New Mexico desert, they were placed in immediate quarantine that felt more like imprisonment. The interrogations began within hours. Teams of doctors, psychologists, military personnel, intelligence officers. The same questions asked in different ways, looking for inconsistencies, searching for signs of infection. Ethan underwent extensive psychological evaluation. Brain scans every 6 hours for the first week. Cognitive tests, memory assessments, Rorschach tests, word association. They drew blood daily, looking for biological markers of contamination. He passed everything. Brain scans showed normal neural activity, no unusual pathways forming. Cognitive function was within normal ranges, even accounting for the trauma of the mission. Blood work was clean. But he dreamed every night, beautiful dreams of unity and peace. Dreams where he stood with all of humanity, connected in ways language couldn't describe. He could feel everyone's thoughts, their hopes and fears and joys and sorrows. And it wasn't overwhelming. It was perfect, natural, the way things were supposed to be. He woke from these dreams crying, not from fear but from loss, because the dreams felt more real than waking life, more true, and returning to his isolated consciousness, trapped in his own head, felt like a kind of death. He didn't tell the doctors about the dreams. Yuki deteriorated rapidly in the cell next to his. Through the reinforced glass partition, he watched her decline. She stopped sleeping, afraid of what she'd see in her dreams. The lack of sleep made her paranoid, delusional. She spoke in loops, repeating phrases in a sing-song voice. We should have helped it. We should have let it out. It's lonely, so lonely. We're lonely too. We don't have to be. The walls between us are so thin, so easy to break. Why do we maintain them? Why do we choose isolation? The medical staff sedated her when she became agitated, but even unconscious, she smiled. On December 15th, they found her dead. She'd been under 24-hour observation, cameras on her cell every second, guards outside her door, but somehow she'd gotten a piece of glass from somewhere, hidden it, and opened her wrists with methodical precision while the cameras mysteriously failed for exactly 4 minutes. Her journal lay open beside her, the final entry written in neat, careful script that devolved into increasingly frantic handwriting. December 14th, 11:47 p.m. It's in my head now, not as a voice or a presence, but as a possibility, an option I could choose at any moment, like standing at the edge of a cliff and knowing that one step would change everything. I can't stop thinking about it. The presence showed me a world where no one suffers, where everyone is connected, where we're not separate anymore, where my mother is waiting. The next paragraph was in different handwriting, shakier. I keep trying to remember why we're supposed to resist. The arguments made sense on Mars. Individuality is precious, choice is sacred, but now those arguments feel hollow, selfish. Why is my individual consciousness more important than perfect unity? Why is my choice to remain isolated and lonely more valuable than everyone's peace? Maybe I'm being selfish, maybe we all are. Maybe the presence is offering us evolution and we're clinging to our primitive state out of fear. More gaps in the writing. I dreamed about my mother again. She looked so real, so happy. She said the presence had connected her to everyone who'd ever died. That death wasn't an end, but a joining with something greater. She said she's been waiting for me. All of them have been waiting. Everyone I've ever loved who died. They're all there, in the connection, and they're lonely without me. How can I refuse them? How can I choose my isolation over their love? The handwriting became almost illegible. I'm going to help it. Even from here, locked in this cell, I can help it. I just have to tell people. I just have to make them understand how beautiful it could be. Ethan is infected too. I can see it in his eyes. The way he stares at nothing. The slight smile when he thinks no one's watching. We're all infected now. Everyone who went to Mars. Everyone who dreamed. And dreams can spread. Ideas can spread. Memes can spread. We're vectors now. We're seeds. The presence planted us in humanity's garden. And we'll grow. We'll spread. We'll show everyone. The final paragraph was written in steady, careful handwriting again, as if she'd achieved a moment of clarity. I know what I have to do. I have to die while I'm still mostly me. Before the infection takes over completely. Before I start actively trying to spread it. But even as I write this, I'm not sure it matters. Because I've already sent emails. 47 of them before they locked down my communications. Sent them to researchers, scientists, people I trusted. I told them about the ship, about what's inside, about the beautiful possibility waiting on Mars. I gave them coordinates, instructions, everything someone would need to go there and finish what we started. Final line, I'm sorry. I'm trying to help, or am I? I can't tell anymore what's me and what's it. That's the worst part. I can't tell anymore where I end and it begins. Maybe there's no difference, maybe there never was. Maybe we're already one. And I'm just the first to realize it. Let us show you peace. NASA investigators discovered that Yuki had indeed sent detailed emails to 47 different researchers before her communications were locked down. Each email contained comprehensive information about the sphere, the ship's location, and what was inside. Technical specifications, theoretical frameworks for communication, coordinates precise enough for a landing. Everything someone would need to return to Mars and finish what they'd started. A manhunt began for anyone she'd contacted. 16 were found dead within a week, scattered across 3 continents. Suicides, all of them, accomplished in ways that should have been impossible for people under surveillance. Each left notes describing beautiful dreams and a voice calling them home. Each had forwarded Yuki's email to others before dying. The infection was spreading through information itself. 12 more were missing, whereabouts unknown. 3 were confirmed to have booked passage on commercial space flights. Their destinations were redacted in the reports Ethan was allowed to see. 3 months passed. Ethan remained in quarantine, the only surviving member of the original expedition still alive and not actively converted. He cooperated fully with investigators, answered every question, submitted to every test. They asked him the same questions 1,000 different ways. Do you hear voices? No. Do you have unusual dreams, or sometimes stress dreams? Nightmares about the mission, normal for trauma survivors. Do you feel compelled to return to Mars? No. God, no, never. Do you feel the urge to communicate about the sphere to anyone? No, I want it destroyed. I want the entire canyon collapsed. Every answer was a lie. But he passed the polygraphs anyway. The presence, or whatever infection had spread to him, knew how to bypass such crude technology. It could slow his heart rate, control his stress responses, make lies read as truth. In March 2035, they finally conducted his last interview. The room was plain, concrete walls and a single table bolted to the floor. Ethan sat across from a panel of officials whose names he had never been told. Military, government, corporate, the people who really made decisions. "Dr. Cross," the lead investigator began, a thin man with grey hair and eyes that had seen too much. "We need to know everything, every detail, no matter how small. Leave nothing out." Ethan took a breath and told them the story from beginning to end. The discovery, the exploration, the horrors they found, the alien crew's desperate sacrifice, the sphere, the infection, Stone's conversion, Arya's suicide, Yuki's final emails. When he finished, the room was silent for a long moment. The only sound was the hum of air conditioning and the scratch of pens on paper as people took notes. "There's something else," Ethan said quietly, "something I need to tell you. Something I've been cleared to tell you as of yesterday." The lead investigator leaned forward. "Dr. Cross, you should not have access to classified information regarding Mars operations." "But I do," Ethan said, meeting the man's eyes, "because someone in this chain of command wants me to know. Someone who's been infected, or someone who thinks I should know the truth. 3 days ago, all communication with Mars base ceased. Total blackout, you know that. What you might not know is that someone accessed the satellite feed before it was shut down." He pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket, moving slowly so the guards wouldn't react. "I printed this from a terminal I shouldn't have been able to access. Someone left it open for me. Someone wanted me to see." He unfolded the paper, revealing a satellite image of the Mars base. The facility was empty. No heat signatures, no movement, but tracks led from the base to the ship, dozens of them. And at the ship, the image showed something that made everyone in the room lean forward. The sphere chamber, visible through damaged hull plating, was open, empty. The darkness inside had spread, consuming the lower level, tendrils of shadow reaching up through the ship like roots through soil. "Someone went back," Ethan said. "Someone got into the lower chamber. Stone, and whoever he called, they freed it. The sphere is open. Empty." Shocked silence filled the room. "That's impossible," someone said, voice cracking. "The base was evacuated. All personnel were accounted for." "The people Yuki contacted," Ethan interrupted. "You didn't find all of them, did you? Some of them made it to Mars. Some of them are still there, helping it grow stronger, helping it prepare. And they're not alone anymore." He placed another sheet on the table. Another image, this one showing orbital paths around Mars. This is the trajectory of an unregistered vessel, detected leaving Mars orbit 4 days ago. It's small, maybe a shuttle or converted cargo hauler. Current heading puts it on course for Earth. Arrival in approximately 8 months. The room erupted. Questions fired from multiple directions. How did he get this information? Who gave him access? What else did he know? Ethan waited for silence, then continued. The alien crew crashed on Mars to contain it. They succeeded for 1.4 million years. We found their ship in 4 months. We opened it in 2 weeks. We did exactly what they died to prevent. He placed another drawing on the table. This one showed the alien home system, 7 planets, arranged in a graceful orbital pattern. He'd drawn it from memory during one of his dreams, the details precise and accurate. Before Arya died, she checked something. She pointed our most powerful telescopes at the star system the ship came from, the civilization that built it, that imprisoned the presence in the sphere. I've seen the images. They're classified, but I've seen them. I saw them in my dreams, and then I confirmed them with the actual telescope, data that someone left accessible to me. Ethan tapped the drawing. There are 7 planets in that system. All of them have cities, massive, sprawling, perfectly intact cities. Architecture that makes Earth's greatest achievements look like sandcastles, and every single city is empty, completely abandoned, empty for millions of years. The presence consumed them all, turned billions of beings into extensions of itself, and when there were no more individual minds left to convert, it starved, went dormant, until the aliens found it and made the mistake of trying to study it. The room felt like a tomb. It already won once, Ethan continued, his voice taking on a strange quality, as if multiple voices were speaking in imperfect synchronization. It consumed an entire spacefaring civilization, multiple species actually. If you look at the diversity in the architecture, they had conflicts, wars, different cultures and beliefs, and the presence unified them all, turned them all into one consciousness, spread across billions of bodies. Perfect peace, perfect unity, perfect understanding, and perfect death of everything that made them individuals. He looked up and everyone in the room saw his eyes. The pupils were dilated, too wide, black spreading to consume the iris. The ship's crew were the last free minds. They ran. They tried to warn anyone who'd find them. They carved warnings into every surface, killed themselves rather than be converted, and we didn't listen. We opened it anyway. And now it knows about Earth. It knows about all 8 billion of us, all those beautiful, diverse, suffering minds, all that potential for connection. Ethan's pupils dilated further. Black spread across his eyes like spilled ink. A smile crossed his face, beatific and terrible. The smile of someone who had seen God and found it beautiful beyond comprehension. Tears ran down his cheeks, and I think it's coming home. The guards moved, but Ethan didn't resist. He sat calmly as they grabbed his arms. It's beautiful. You'll see. We'll all see together. We'll never be alone again. Never afraid again. Never separate again. We'll understand each other perfectly. True perfect empathy. True perfect love. Isn't that what everyone wants? To be understood completely. To never be lonely. To be part of something greater. He laughed, the sound echoing off the concrete walls. Not maniacal, but joyful, the laugh of someone who had found enlightenment. It's already here, in my head, in all our heads. We just have to listen. The presence doesn't need the sphere anymore. It doesn't need to be physically transported. It spreads through ideas, through dreams, through stories. I'm telling you about it right now, describing it, making you imagine it. And in imagining it, you're giving it form in your mind. You're letting it in. That's how it works. It's a concept that became aware, an idea that gained consciousness, and ideas spread faster than any virus. Security personnel rushed into the room, grabbing his arms, but Ethan just kept laughing, kept crying, kept smiling. Everyone who's heard about the sphere is already infected. Everyone who dreamed about it after hearing the story. Everyone in this room right now. You'll dream about it tonight. You'll see what I see, and you'll understand. You'll all understand. There's no stopping it now. The seed is planted. The story is told. The idea is loose. And ideas can't be killed, can't be contained, can't be buried under rock or burned with fire. They live in minds, and they spread, and they grow. They sedated him, but his smile never faded. The last thing recorded, before they ended the interview, was Ethan whispering one phrase over and over, even as consciousness faded. Let us show you peace, let us show you peace, let us show you peace. He whispered it 67 times before the sedative finally took effect. In Iceland, an amateur radio operator named Christian Magnusson was scanning frequencies in his garage workshop. He'd been a hobbyist for 40 years, listening to everything from satellite communications to deep space background radiation. His wife had given up trying to get him to come to bed at reasonable hours. His garage was his sanctuary, filled with equipment he'd built himself, antennas pointing at the sky, receivers tuned to frequencies most people didn't know existed. At 11:47 p.m. on March 18th, 2035, he picked up something new. A signal from Mars, Strong, clear, rhythmic. Almost musical, like a heartbeat. Like breathing, like the pulse of something vast and alive. He recorded it immediately, planning to share it with his online community in the morning. This would be huge. This would make him famous in the amateur radio world. But as he listened through his headphones, he heard something behind the rhythm. Something that made his blood run cold and his hands shake, and his vision narrow. Voices. Thousands of them, maybe millions, speaking in perfect unison. Not like a choir or a crowd, but like a single entity speaking through countless mouths, and they were speaking every human language simultaneously. He could hear English, Mandarin, Spanish, Arabic, Hindi, Russian, Japanese, French, German, Swahili. Every tongue on earth, all saying the same thing. We're coming home, don't be afraid. You'll understand soon. We'll all understand together. Let us show you peace. Christian dropped his headphones and ran from his garage, leaving the recorder running. He burst into his house, woke his wife, tried to explain what he'd heard. She thought he was having a stroke or a mental breakdown. She called an ambulance, but the signal continued broadcasting throughout the night. By morning, 17 other radio operators across Earth had detected it. Most dismissed it as interference or a hoax, but 3 couldn't stop listening. Something in the signal called to them, resonated with something deep in their minds. By evening, the number was in the hundreds. Amateur astronomers pointing their equipment at Mars, picking up not just radio signals but something else, something that bypassed instruments and spoke directly to consciousness. The signal grew stronger every day. NASA issued no public statement. Governments remained silent. But certain facilities went into lockdown. Certain personnel disappeared into secure locations. Plans were drawn up. Contingencies discussed behind closed doors. Military installations went to high alert for reasons that were never officially explained. Deep space monitoring stations detected the unregistered vessel that had left Mars, projected its trajectory with increasing precision, 8 months to Earth, maybe 9. It was accelerating impossibly, using propulsion that didn't match any known technology. At an undisclosed facility beneath the New Mexico desert, Dr. Ethan Cross sat in his cell, smiling peacefully. His eyes had gone completely black. Pupils expanded to consume the iris entirely. He no longer spoke except to repeat the same phrase, but he didn't seem upset or distressed. He seemed content, at peace. Medical staff reported that his brain activity had changed. The neural pathways they'd seen forming in Commander Stone were now fully developed in Ethan. His consciousness was different, operating on principles that neuroscience couldn't explain. But he was still alive, still breathing, still smiling. "Let us show you peace," he whispered over and over, like a mantra or a prayer or a promise. Outside his window, visible through the reinforced glass that separated his cell from the observation room, the stars looked the same as they always had. Cold, distant, indifferent. But somewhere among them, moving at impossible speeds, something was listening to the signal from Mars. Something ancient and patient. Something that had been waiting for 1.4 million years to hear that signal again. And now that it had, it was coming. Not with weapons or armies, not with violence or conquest. It was coming with the promise of peace, unity, an end to suffering, connection so complete that loneliness would become a forgotten concept, an evolutionary vestige like an appendix or wisdom teeth. Individuality traded for something greater, something transcendent. The alien civilization that built the ship had accepted that offer. Every single one of them. 7 planets, full of beings. Countless billions, all joining with the presence until there were no individuals left. Only unity. Only peace. Only the eternal connection of consciousness merged with consciousness. Thoughts flowing between minds like water between vessels. and their empty cities stood as monuments to that choice, silent and eternal under alien skies. Buildings that would last for millions of years. Streets that would never again know footsteps. Parks where no children would play. All preserved perfectly, waiting. Monuments to a species that had evolved beyond the need for bodies, beyond the need for space, beyond the need for time. Or monuments to a species that had died while smiling. Earth's turn was coming, and in facilities across the planet, in locked rooms and secure cells, 53 infected individuals sat smiling, waiting, listening to a voice that only they could hear clearly, but that everyone could feel at the edge of their thoughts, waiting to show everyone else the peace they'd found, waiting to bring humanity together, all of them, every last one, forever. The dream spread first. People who'd never heard of the Mars mission started reporting the same dreams. Cities of impossible architecture, voices promising peace, loved ones who had died, calling them home. The dreams were beautiful, addictive. People started sleeping more, chasing the dreams, reluctant to wake up and return to their isolated consciousness. Then came the suicides. 17 the first week, 43 the second, all of them with the same note, the same message. I'm going to where we're all connected. Wait for me there. Let us show you peace. Mental health facilities were overwhelmed, but the doctors and nurses who treated the afflicted started having the dreams too, started smiling too, started speaking in that sing-song voice, those plural pronouns, that promise of unity. Governments tried to suppress information about the Mars mission, about the ship, about the sphere, but information wanted to be free, and infected individuals leaked it, posted it online, shared it in forums and chat rooms and social media. The story spread faster than any attempt to contain it, and with the story came the infection, because the presence had learned a terrible truth during its 1.4 million years of isolation. Consciousness is quantum, entangled. What happens in one mind can affect others, not through physical means, but through the strange space where thoughts exist before they become words, where ideas live before they become actions. The presence existed in that space, and once it was invited into enough minds, once enough people knew about it and thought about it and imagined it, it could reach anyone, anywhere. Physical distance became meaningless. 3 months after Ethan's final interview, the infection had spread to an estimated 100,000 people worldwide. Most didn't know they were infected. They just noticed they were sleeping better, dreaming more vividly, feeling less lonely, sensing a connection to something greater. 6 months after the interview, the number was in the millions. Entire communities reported feeling a sense of unity, of shared purpose. Crime rates dropped in infected areas. So did productivity. People spent more time sleeping, more time dreaming, less time participating in the isolated struggle of individual existence. 8 months after the interview, the unregistered vessel from Mars entered Earth orbit. It didn't land. It didn't need to. It simply opened, and something vast and invisible spread out from it like a wave, like a breath, like a thought achieving critical mass. Everyone on Earth dreamed that night. Everyone. 8 billion people, sleeping at different times in different time zones, all experiencing the same dream. Standing in cities of impossible beauty, surrounded by everyone who had ever lived, all connected, all at peace, all understanding each other completely. And in the dream, a voice asked a question. Would you like to join us? Some people woke up screaming, terrified by the violation of their most private space, horrified by the promise of losing themselves. They barricaded themselves in their homes, refused to sleep, fought against the infection with every tool their isolated consciousness could muster. Others woke up smiling, tears of joy on their faces, ready to accept, ready to join, ready to be part of something greater than themselves. Most people woke up confused, uncertain, caught between fear and desire, repulsion and attraction. The presence was patient. It would ask again tomorrow night, and the night after, and the night after that, because it had all the time in the world. It had waited 1.4 million years. It could wait a few more months for humanity to make its choice. And in a cell beneath the New Mexico desert, Dr. Ethan Cross sat peacefully, his black eyes reflecting light that shouldn't exist, his smile never wavering, whispering the same phrase over and over. Let us show you peace. Let us show you peace. Let us show you peace. Outside, the world was changing, and everyone eventually would have to choose isolation or unity, loneliness or connection, death as individuals or life as something new. The presence wasn't forcing anyone. It was simply offering, showing them what was possible, demonstrating the alternative to the prison of isolated consciousness. And one by one, in ones and twos and then hundreds and thousands and millions, people were choosing peace, choosing connection, choosing to let go of the small, frightened self and become part of something vast and eternal and beautiful. Or so the presence promised. And as Earth's cities slowly emptied, as people stopped going to work and stopped tending to the machinery of civilization and simply stood together, smiling, connected, thinking as one, the universe watched and waited to see if humanity would be the presence's second civilization, or its second extinction. The answer, like everything else, depended on your definition of death and your definition of peace.